Right, hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby for a very sort of spur of the moment thing. We weren't going to do a live watch along because I thought I was working today, but then realized I wasn't about an hour ago, so we thought, well, seems we're going to watch the game anyway. Let's just jump on a watch along, get a link going, and we'll see if anybody wants to come and join us. So yeah, it's all very a bit right, hello everybody and welcome to last minute. Let me shut that up. So busy setting everything up as we go. But yeah, so if you're watching, let me know where you're watching. We're going to get the scoreboard and everything going right now. But just a bit last minute, so we just want to make sure we've got everything going correctly and then we can really get into this properly. Right, all ready for kickoff. So let's just make sure that we've got everything sorted. And then we can really start getting stuck in. We can look at some of the teams and everything like that. Right, so the timer is on. And we are away. Clayton Blommekeys gets us underway in Bloemfontein. And it's immediately spilled. And hello. Well, the Cheetahs have completely turned that around. On the GoPro board, they're actually on the Sharks try line right now. And let's try. How's that for a start? Carl Backner's over. We are 35 seconds into the game, and we've got our first points of the game so far. That's incredible. Well, jeepers, I've barely gotten set up. I'm barely going here, and we're already away. I mean, really, the one time when I'm not very organized, and we are already 5-0 to the Cheetahs, and a must-win game for them, must be said. And I tell you what, if there was one start that they would have liked to, one game where they would like to start it quickly, this is it. And Francois Steyn will land the conversion. Now, it looks like we've got a bit of team news here. I'm a bit everywhere at the moment because I wasn't supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be working right now, which is the worst thing you can do on a Sunday in and around the Christmas time. But Francois Steyn slots that. Let's add the extra 2 points there. And let's just get us all sorted, and then we can really settle in and enjoy the game. Right, well now the Sharks will have a kick off to get their game going away. I'm still busy trying to set everything up. It's all a bit disjointed at the moment, but the Cheetahs do manage to hold on to that, so that's good from their side of things. Right, let's get that sorted, and Cheetahs have managed to clear, which is quite good. Okay, let me just, this clock is a bit everywhere. Let me sort myself out here. Oh, that's an interception. Jalpenk is going to go over. Oh my goodness, everything's happening here. Literally everything is happening here. The Sharks are over. That is 7-5. What a start. I mean, I barely managed to even watch half of this. And it's 7-5 in 3 minutes, 20 seconds. What a start we've got going over here. So the Cheetahs trying to spread it. A pretty of a wayward pass. Pretty poor, really. And Jalpenk is on it, jumps on it, grabs the ball, and he goes over. Easy running, off to the races. Sharks back in this one. We haven't even had time to ask people for their score prediction yet, and it's already probably going to be 7-7. So let's ask for score predictions, considering the fact that we've seen 14 points, well, so far 12, about to be 14 points conceded in just a few minutes. Currie Bosch adds the extras, and we are at 7-all. What a start we've got going here. Right, let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. And breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. Right, so 7-7, 4 minutes, 40 seconds going over here. So that's a better, yeah, Sycamore's not sure they're making sure he catches the rebound, which is much better from them, because that was where it went wrong for them in the first place. So yeah, a terrible start for the Sharks, but a little bit better with the Alpenke having managed to get the intercept try. And now we kind of sort of go from sort of the beginning again. Right, now the Cheetahs well in the Sharks half. I'm just a bit, trying to catch my breath here after that start. Not much go forward ball at the moment. Ruben de Haas decides to put it along the ground. He gets into the 22. There's nobody back for the Sharks, so a decent kick chase, and they can try and set a decent line out. But Currie Bosch got all the time in the world, and in fact, they're going to run it. Woo! Leebox through. Ah, it's a poor pass. And it doesn't look like it's a knock on, but a bit of momentum lost there from the Sharks. Now Fasting comes in. Ooh, Monty Leebox through another gap. So Sharks trying to really accelerate the pace and breathe. We've got a knock on. Okay, so yeah, Sharks looking to run the ball a lot in the early stages. Monty Leebox already made 2 line breaks. He has stayed down, and it's very important that he starts well, because we've got Apelele Fassi, who's back on the bench, ready to make a return from injury today. So it's very important that Monty Leebox managed to put in a good performance. He's got a bit of a gash on his head, so looks like he might have to go and have that looked at down the tunnel. Yeah, it was a clash of heads there between the two. So nothing malicious there, but if it means he has to go off, we could see a very early return here from Apelele Fassi. Right, so let's get the timer sorted. Yeah, clash of heads. That's not fun between Leebock and Francois Steyn. So he's down, receiving a bit of treatment. And now here we go. Now it's being looked at because it's a collision. It's clash of heads. The fact that there was no ref by the arm that actually made contact. Okay. Right, so having a word with Francois Steyn here on the collision. Okay, so the thing is, he's got to attempt to ref with the arm that makes contact. There's no attempt to ref with that arm. There is an attempt to ref with the other arm. That's irrelevant. So we're dealing with a head clash. There's nothing. It's just a penalty. Yeah, it's the right call. Just a penalty there. Francois Steyn just guilty of not wrapping his one arm around as much. It is just a clash of heads though, so nothing too serious. I'm glad they haven't decided to go with the card, because I'm getting very bored of how quickly they are going to the cards these days. See, and this is the problem, because we've now had a couple of early yellow cards during the competition, and now Lukanya is very rightfully saying, but during our game that was sanctioned, there was a yellow card, so why isn't that a card? And this was the issue with people going to the yellow so early and so quickly in other games that it kind of sets a bit of a precedent. But the good news for Mani Liebach is he has been strapped and he will continue, and there are no issues over there. But it is a penalty for the Sharks, which means they can get inside the Cheetahs half, and after a bit of a haywire start, the game could hopefully try and settle down here and can try and slow things down. The Sharks will look to try and get it more going in. So the first major sort of set piece of the game, and it's pretty well held up by the Cheetahs. Sharks starting to rebuild a more, but it is going towards the touchline. The call to use it, and Jaden Hendricks is trying to get that ball out, which he does. Oh, scoreboard's a bloody nightmare. Right, so we're up to date with the scoreboard and everything like that. And the Cheetahs have turned that over. A very messy start, very sloppy start from both sides in many ways. But quite an open game, and Francois Stein's going to pull that boot out and try and send that ball as far as he can down to the other end of the Bloemfontein Stadium. And it's going to sit just literally on the try line, which means there's no 22 anything. Yao Penke comes back and swings it to Lukanya. Now he looks to run. Ooh! I don't know if he sat down there, didn't, but just a couple of steps, and the Cheetahs decide to bring out the deck chair and sit down. And there it is. The aerial battle from the Sharks was used a lot against the Lions, and they're going to try and test the Cheetahs earlier, but not a great kick chase. And Francois Steyn once again puts the ball on his boot. That looks better, and he finds touch. Oh, it stays in actually. And now Liebach finally finds touch just outside the 22. So everything's happening at the moment. We've had pretty much everything besides the scrum in the opening 8 minutes. So it's been a hectic start.
Once again, getting some attention after that head clash with Francois Steyn. Might be sent to do a head injury assessment.
Okay, it looks like Mani Liebach's going out for an HIA, which means, in theory, we will see Apelele Fassi back in action. One of the big pluses, or the biggest thing for today, was be able to see how he comes back. Was playing such good rugby before he got injured. Yeah, Fassi does come back on, so he is back.
Into the Currie Cup competition. All a good replacement for the Sharks to have.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, that's the last thing that Mani Liebach would have liked, because with Fassi coming back, there's been a bit... Well, he's obviously going to have to try and prove a bit of a point today, and so the last thing he would have wanted is to have gone off early, but that is the case. Apelele Fassi is on, and the Cheetahs have a bit of a rolling more here, which is broken away, but a lot of momentum, and there is an advantage for them, so they do go to the back line. Moore Smith takes it up into a decent collision, and that's a bit of a knock-on, so they'll go back for the penalty. So Cheetahs weathered a bit of a storm and now on the front foot here. So busy opening 10 minutes, 14 points on the board, someone in the HIA. Both sides having chances here. Now the Cheetahs will have a line out on the 5-meter line, and a big opportunity for them to score. In a game where it really is do or die for the Cheetahs, they cannot afford to lose this game if they want to any sort of chance of progressing into the next, well, into the semis. Right, so we've actually hadn't had much time to do the teams, but let's just get this more out the way, and once, regardless of what happens, we can have a bit, and that is not straight. So let's have a look at the two teams. Let's see if I managed to get this right. Not straight, which is very frustrating from the Cheetahs. But a very good, a couple of interesting changes on both sides, and both sides getting players back from injury. So if you look there, Clayton Blommakeys, William Small-Smith, Dries Swanepoel, Frans Steyn, Roscoe Speckman back for the Cheetahs. Reynard Fortuin comes in at 10 place of Frans Steyn, who's just back to centre. Then Ruben de Haas, Jean de Rudolph, Opa Mohoje, Andisa Nsile, Reniel Hugo, Carl Vackner is obviously captaining the side. And a front row of Kuto Machuno, Manus van der Merwe, and Bowen Fenter. On the bench for the Cheetahs, we've got Louis van der Westhuizen, Cameron Dawson, Conrad van Vuren, Victor Sekikete, Chris Massane, Tian Meyer, Hardem Nisi, and then Reno Smith as well off the bench. So interesting time for the scrums here. Michael Kumburai has been dropped by the Sharks. He had a bit of a mare really against the Lions last weekend, and I think as a result has been dropped to the bench. Just couldn't cope with Dylan Smith at all. So after a couple of resets, here we go again, and that's gone straight down, and we're going to have another one. Oh dear. Nothing worth in reset scrums. So frustrating watching and just absolutely nothing happening at all. Some stern words there from the ref.
Cheetahs, one Peter, and the tight John Herbert Mayer. I think it's slightly closer.
And then for the Sharks, looking at the side here, Molly Lebuck's currently in doing an HRA, so Apelele Fassi has come on already. Spirin Corsi Lakamia and Jeremy Ward has come in. Nyal Penke comes in as well. Cohen Bosch keeps his place, and Jaden Hendrickson gets a start, his first start for the Sharks. Ikambozi Noche, Henko Fenter, and Dylan Richardson are the loose trio. Starting to get quite a nice little combination between the three of those. Aston Fortuin keeps his place, but Ruben van Heerden comes in at lock. John Hubert Meyer is the one that has replaced Mark Kumburai. Kieran van Vuren and Oxenchair make up the rest of the front row. And a poor bit of play there from Jaden Hendrickson. And the Cheetahs suddenly have an attacking now just 5 meters out. Coming off the bench for the Sharks will be Fez Mbate, Kwesi Mona, Mark Kumburai, Hiron Andrews, Tembalani Bolly, Grant Williams, Werner Koch, and rounding out the side he's currently on is obviously Apelele Fassi. So an attacking lineup here for the Cheetahs, a big chance for them to try and hit. I mean, the scrums have been pretty solid so far, not much between the two sides. And it's once again holding very, very steady. So Ruben de Haas will bring the backline into play. Francois Steyn, the man that looks like he's almost got over, breaks the tackle. They're on the try line here. Sharks trying to slow it down. Cheetahs go out. That's a big carry from, looks like Hugo. And he's over. That's it. Try from the Cheetahs. They get their second of the day. A high-scoring game so far. And a big moment for the side which has to win this game if they are to try and keep their semi-final hopes alive. So scrums look very interesting. A bit of a sort of solid scrum there with both sides not really budging. Francois Steyn had a nice run up there, managed to break a couple of tackles and get over the advantage line, and then eventually the Cheetahs have got over. And Sharks need to weather a bit of a storm here under a lot of pressure early on. Francois Steyn once again with the kicking duties. Looks like he will be kicking for poles during the day. And yeah, big moment in the game. Yeah, 15 minutes when we could already have 21 points on the board. So we're scoring at more than a point a minute at the moment. So if this keeps up, then we're going to have a very high scoring game, which will be a nice watch actually. And he slots that, taking it up to 14-7 in just 15 minutes. Quick start here in Bloemfontein.
Position bar. one in there, but France then one of the few Springboks to win 2 World Cups, Rugby World Cups.
And not much of a kick chase there, so the Cheetahs managed to receive that pretty well and find touch. Right, so score predictions. I think I said Sharks by 12 in my preview, if I remember correctly. So the Cheetahs, I didn't quite expect the start from the Cheetahs, and I think that the Sharks will need to try and get going here. Obviously, coming off a pretty poor performance against the Lions, the confidence will start dropping if they don't manage to sort of turn this around. So important that they need to get into this game sooner rather than later. And Sharks eventually managed to retain that. Delivic takes it into contact. And they get a penalty. And this should be kicked over, I'm sure. Looks like Untitled Chapter penalized for not rolling away. And Currie Bosch is going to go for the line. Now, that's a very interesting call. I'm not sure that's the right call, actually. So it's a good touch finder. They wanted the 22, but the Sharks have just turned down 3 points. It probably would have been quite a straightforward 3 points. So it's an interesting call for them not to take it. But obviously they're sitting there saying, well, we want the win or nothing. We're not going to sit there playing catch up. We're going to go for you toe to toe, which is an interesting tactic.
Good line-up play, and now it's Richardson again. Setting it up, Hendricks.
Yeah, that's a knock on. That's poor. Ruben van Heerden knocks it on and then gets in the way. So Cheetahs have bought themselves a penalty and they'll manage to clear. And that's why you take the 3 points. Don't get greedy. 3 points, get with yourself within 4, another penalty, and you're 1 point behind them. But the Sharks deciding to take, to turn down the points rather, and they might pay for that later, to be honest. As Francois Steyn pulls out his boot and puts it very high into the stands.
Exactly what these forwards need in this heat. Find yourself in our position halfway line. Cheetahs coach, Harvey's Currie. That's in the middle. Harvey's Currie, who worked with Reinhard Fortuyn, the Cheetahs fly half.
Decent line out there from the Cheetahs, and now they're going to bring their back line. So some good hands there. Decent Sealer gets it up to the halfway line. It's a good chip over the top. The ball bounces favorably. And Fassi gets his first touch of the ball, and it looks like he's going to concede a penalty. Yeah, isolated. Oh, that's a bit of a rough call. No clear release apparently from Jean de Rudolph. Had a word in his conceded 10 meters as well. So discipline always been a bit of an issue with Jean de Rudolph. Has a bit of a temper. Referee not happy with the words being said by the players there. Just asked if they want to give away another 10. Right, and Currie Bosch gets them to about the 22. Probably, yeah, I mean, it wasn't really in range. If they had conceded another 10 meters, probably could have had a shot at goal there, but yeah, Rudolph just not deemed to have shown enough daylight there, and so the Sharks, the Maul's not getting them anywhere. Jalpenka tries to carry it up. He's fairly isolated, but they do manage to retain it. With some good hands there from Noche. And now Lakanya tries to create something. They've got an advantage for offside.
The referee. Is it captain? I spoke to you in the change room about throwing the ball away. They clearly want to go quickly. So I've marched one 10 now, and there's another one now. So if the ball's in your court, what's going to happen from here onwards? Just put it down. Don't walk away with it and throw it.
Okay, referee not happy with the fact that Cheetahs trying to slow the ball game, throwing the ball away when they've had conceded a penalty. So referees sort of threatening, sort of more retrospective active. Once again, the Sharks have turned down the point. I don't know why. That's 2 kickable penalties, which if they had taken, they'd be 1 point behind. And the maul has not really worked. And that's a terrible kick by Currie Bosch. And Oscar Speckman has turned that down. Thankfully, the Cheetahs have completely stopped. This has been a terrible game so far. Sharks are taking the line quickly. Now Fassie's going to get a chance to run. I'll tell you, it hasn't been particularly good watching so far. And the Cheetahs win a penalty. That is Jean-Andre Rudolph at his best. That's what he can do when he's not giving up penalties. So I don't know what the Sharks are doing. They've turned down 2 very kickable penalties. They could have been 1 point behind, but they've turned down the points, and now they're well inside their house, in their half, with a 7 point deficit.
Sorry, that's Jean-Andre Rudolph, actually. That's the middle. Time with the Leopards and with the Pumas, Jean-Andre Rudolph. He was the captain of the Picker Varsity Cup side that won the Varsity Cup, coached by one of our colleagues, Johnny McQueen.
So now the Cheetahs should strike back. And if the Cheetahs score here, the Sharks will be kicking themselves the fact that they turned down pretty easy points, to be honest. But it's a penalty by the Sharks. Such a disjointed game so far. Just not much. I mean, discipline has been a very high. I mean, there must be at least about 10 penalties already. So averaging a penalty every 2 minutes, which is not great. So that's definitely an area that we need to try and sort out.
Two-handed take by Rudolph. The person that rips the ball needs to rip it on the player. The ball was transferred immediately from a horse and therefore...
Right, so a bit of a disjointed game so far. If you are watching, please do smash a like on the video as well. Please do subscribe. We are trying to hit 400 subscribers before we get to the new year. We need just 18, so please do subscribe. Smash a like on the video as well. The Sharks go long, and there's a lot of ball carriers in that midfield, but it's Jeremy Ward who shrugs off one, gets up to the halfway line. Now Henko Fenter carries it. He makes some yards. Bit of a couple of good hands there, bit of change direction, but Cheetahs read it pretty well, and they've held him up. So the Sharks not... a couple of inside balls, couple of inside pops, not trying to keep... Oh, and that's been knocked on though. And that, I suppose, is the problem. Sometimes guilty of being a bit too or a bit too clever, and they've knocked it on. Now the Cheetahs will have a scrum on the halfway line. And just a disjointed game so far. Not much momentum from either side. Handling errors. And we're having a water break from the looks of it. So 23 minutes in, 14-7 to the Cheetahs. And not a fantastic start, if I'm honest. Not the start that we would have... I mean... a fantastic start. We had 5 minutes and we had to have 2 tries, but since then it's been pretty sloppy in all honesty. So yeah, hopefully now this water break's a nice chance to just calm it down, reset maybe a bit, and we can try and start getting more structure in the game, because at the moment it's just been pretty poor.
Let's forget the tackle slow. We've got a one in the bench.
Yeah, well, the doctors and the medics downstairs have confirmed that Monty Lebok has failed his concussion test. He's still behind closed doors getting stitches at the moment.
Okay, so the big news in terms of injuries, Monty Lebok has failed his HIA. He will not return to the field, so Fassi will get a much longer run out than they probably would have wanted, to be honest. So interesting to see what his fitness levels are like, because he's going to get a full 70 minutes. The water break will help. Seeking was not doing a lot of talking there between the teams, saying that we need to do better at breakdowns, need to try and dominate that area. It is an area that they haven't been particularly good so far.
He was captain of the school. They didn't say head boy, but the captain of
Obviously looking very animated at the top there. I don't think he's been particularly impressed with what he's seen, despite his side being quite a few points ahead. But just been quite sloppy, quite disjointed so far in the match. Sean Everett looks relatively calm, quite focused, as does the entire Sharks coaching staff, to be honest.
will be flying back to Durban with the Sharks side this evening after the game. Kanyam and Kerwin Bosch.
Yeah, we're going to restart with a scrum on the halfway to the Cheetahs. So let's see if they can do anything. Just inside their half, in fact. Closer to their 10 meter line. And that's an early shove from the Sharks. So it's a free kick, short arm. Yep, and they've called for another scrum. They're going to try and work a penalty here.
Too early was short
So another scrum. Now, scrums have been very even at the moment. There haven't been much between the two sides, in all honesty. So not the worst tactic to go and try and see if the Cheetahs can try and find a scrum penalty. They haven't managed it so far. And it is rock solid. There is nothing separating. There's been a bit of a second shove from the Cheetahs, and now they start coming through. That's that big scrum. They do have an advantage. John De Rudolph goes there, and it's messy, and there will be a penalty to the Cheetahs. So that's interesting. First bit of scrum dominance we've seen so far. And yeah, I mean, the first hit was very even. Not much going on there. And a massive counter shove. Well, not a counter shove, but a second shove from the Cheetahs. And I think Francis is having a chat with Wagner. He wants to go for the poles, but Harl Wagner has said, go. No, they are going to go for poles. So Francis is about to bring up that monster boot of his.
All the static, and then the second shove comes on, and look at that. Totally.
Yeah, big second shove from the Cheetahs. That's a big moment in the game, actually. If they start establishing scrum dominance, then suddenly it becomes even much more difficult for the Sharks to get into the side. Onto the game, rather. Right, so let's see if he can do it. He's kept it low. That is huge, and it is over. Francois stayed. I tell you, as far as playing against them, you cannot give away a penalty anywhere near. I mean, anything from within their 10 meter, you can't afford to give anything away. That boot gets bigger with age, and that is a brilliant kick from the Springbok. So Cheetahs 17-7 in just 25 minutes play. Good start from them, and a good secured by Hugo. It's a good line run, but knocked on. So now the Sharks will have a chance to have a scrum here. And that's kind of sort of summed up the game. Is that sort of a decent period of play followed by a pretty sketchy, pretty messy period of play. And it's been a bit disjointed the entire game, really. It was a great line that he ran, but just took his eyes off the ball and knocks it on. So it's pretty poor by Bowen Fenter. You'll be disappointed with that. I mean, literally 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 25 minutes. Those have been penalties. So it's just been a stop-start game the entire half so far. Not the best for watching, to be honest, but hopefully it'll start fixing itself up very soon.
You see Werner Cox right of the Sharks. Scrum with Farsi.
Anything on this side, Brett?
What an awesome matchup. Werner Cox versus Roscoe Speckman, the two Blitzbooker buddies.
And another reset, as usual. Need better scrums across the entire competition, to be honest, because it's just been so many resets lately. And it's just, yeah, it becomes so difficult to have any sort of flow in the game when there's just reset after reset after reset. And when there has been a scrum, the Cheetahs have looked and they've won another scrum penalty, actually. So that's a big moment again. So that's now the second weekend where the Sharks scrum is struggling to compete. And if they don't sort that out, that's going to be difficult for them. There's no point having such a good backline with so much talent if you're not going to have that go-forward ball to really get your side into the game. And as we approach the halfway mark, Francois Steyn thunders that downfield and finds touch about 5 meters before the 22.
Trying to get that extra lean and hits, and very free Morris from the West Side losing his patience. It's the second scrum penalty.
So scrum's getting messy. I think we could, I mean, if there was a game we were going to see cards for scrum, we could see it here, because it hasn't necessarily been, you know, scrums where they've been going down or been pivoting or anything like that. It's just been ill discipline. A couple of early hits, a couple of people not supporting their weight. We've got a bit of an overlap. Now William Smith on the outside. Great tackle by Apelli Fast, who came up quickly. It's a good hit there on Ruben van Heerden, but the Cheetahs have managed to find themselves well within the Sharks' half. Some quick ball. Jeremy Ward comes up quickly, but he doesn't manage to make his tackle. Now Francois Steyn is a bit isolated there, but they do retain it. Ah, and there's the knock-on. Oh, it's just as soon as you start seeing some half-decent rugby, there's a knock-on. There's a penalty there, however, for the Cheetahs, which means they'll probably chuck this over and suddenly have a 13-point difference. So that's... that doesn't sound good. We've got time off for a serious injury. I'm not quite sure who it is, and I hope it's not Fussy.
Once again, it looks like Ron Steyn will opt for the posts.
It looks like William Smith-Smith's down. He doesn't look very happy. I think that's a big collision on him. That could be a concussion. Yeah, not a great start in terms of injuries already. We've already seen Monty Liebach, who's failed his concussion test, and he is out for the game. And now it looks like William Smith's down. Yeah, Smith. As he goes to the collision, you can just see. Look, I don't know if he loses consciousness, but he definitely doesn't look great on the floor there. It's a huge collision with. Yeah, smacks the ground very hard there. Doesn't look happy. This doesn't look great for William Smith. He's plenty because he's starting to play some of the rugby that we was waiting for him to play. He is up though, which is good to see. But he'll definitely be off for an HIA. He's trying to run off, which is a nice sign. But that's the second player who's gone off with a... That's going to go off with a head injury, which is not great. I mean, we've obviously seen the case with dementia from various players. Big debate at the moment about the safety of the game and how do they change regulations? How do we prevent these head injuries? What's going to go on? So that's not what you want to see during these sort of times. Look, there's to a certain degree, there will always be a certain amount of risk in playing the game. Rainer Smith is on the field. But, yeah, in a time where concussion is such a hot topic, you know, having 2 in one half in 30 minutes is not a great advert for the game at all. So, Francois Steyn lines up his second penalty of the game. If he slots it, that'll be 20 points to 7. It's right in front of the poles, and he has absolutely no issue. And this is why I was saying the Sharks should have taken the points. They had 2 kickable opportunities quite early on, and they could have been sitting there with at 13 points, 7 points within a try score to make, but they turned down the points. Right, so Sean O'Farrell says not looking good for the Sharks. No, not at all. Discipline's costing them. Struggling to get into the game, haven't had too many phases, haven't had much opportunity to do much, to be fair to them. KPMG, apologies if it's been asked. Any thoughts on the new Bulls purchase? It hasn't been asked. In fact, it was been such a quick start to the stream and everything like that. We haven't talked about much at all. Marcel Coetzee is set to be announced tomorrow by the Bulls, and I tell you what, that bloody Bulls loose trio, Marcel Coetzee, Arno Botha, Marco Verstappen, and Dwayne Vermeulen. And Nizam Carr, just by the way. How the hell are they planning on using all 5 of those players? It's unbelievable. It's just not fair on the rest of the blooming unions. But it's going to be so nice to see Marcel Coetzee back in South Africa. And I reckon that, and somebody made a very good point, I think it was on social media, where they were saying that they reckon Rassie Erasmus had a big part to play in that. And that he reckons that Marcel Coetzee could be a big part of the 2023 World Cup plans, which could be a big factor. But yeah, I mean, Marcel Coetzee basically, from the sounds of it, was saying that as a result of the pandemic, wants to come back, be a bit closer to home, which I can understand. I think a couple of players were thinking of it, but at the same time, the finances have been more important than ever. But with the Bulls checkbook, suddenly finances aren't that big of an issue, but it'll be a huge acquisition for the Bulls itself. Also, head injuries have been a thing for contact sports like football and also boxing and MMA. It has, and it always will be. So there will always be a certain amount that you have to. It's a great kick in behind. Werner Koch managed to get back there. He's in for Spoon Corsi, by the way, in case you've missed it, which is a big loss for the Sharks in not playing. It is, and I think that the big thing is you need to ensure that all the measures are being taken to prevent head injuries, but it is one of those things, you know, just like cricket, where they've now had to have the helmet slightly remodeled to try and protect the back of their head. There is always that risk. There will always be that risk. You can never have 100% safe sport. It'll never be achieved. So it's all about finding the balance in terms of regulations. How do we keep the integrity of the game? How do we ensure the integrity of the game continues whilst taking every precaution to prevent these sort of injuries? So if we get to a state, I mean, look, it's difficult when you say a lot of players getting head injuries and still refusing to wear scrum caps and stuff like that. You know, they've got the option of wearing all this additional protection and they don't. So, you know, it's a personal choice. I mean, whether they get to the stage where they do suddenly make it compulsory for everyone to wear scrum caps or head guards or whatever, I don't know, that could be something that comes up in the future. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to just take every single precaution, find the balance, and after that, there will be certain things that happen, you know. Football talking about gum guards potentially coming in to prevent concussions. So, and that's the thing. So let's start using technology. Let's get the technology and try and make sure that we can try and prevent it in many ways. But you do have to accept that to a certain degree, there will always be that risk. You know, it's things like chances are when you play a full career rugby, you're going to have injuries, you know, whether that's broken bones, torn hamstrings or whatever. It's part of sport, unfortunately. So same with head injuries. I mean, I obviously understand that the head injuries are a lot more serious long term. But, yeah, it's all about finding the balance. I think the Bulls have been, from what I've watched, are the most dominant sides, like an Ireland Leinster being top of the Irish sides. I haven't watched highlights of Super Rugby. I watched highlights of Super Rugby Unlocked. Yeah, look, the Bulls, I don't know. The Bulls are definitely the top side and the leading side in South Africa at the moment. Completely dominated Super Rugby Unlocked. They have been quite lucky in terms of the couple of games which have been cancelled and postponed as a result of COVID-19, which they have benefited from. But they have looked a lot more vulnerable. I mean, the Sharks beat them. And, you know, there's been a couple of performances from the Bulls where you kind of sit there saying, well, you know, they're not as good maybe as we kind of thought. And maybe that they are a bit more vulnerable, but definitely the best side. And well, you know, it's difficult because they've been the best side since lockdown. But before lockdown, the Sharks were just creaming everyone. The biggest disappointments for me at the moment are the Western Province. Well, here we go. Some fantastic pace by Yapenko. You saw a huge gap. And now they're going to continue running. Lukanya takes it up to the 22. Some good quick ball from Hendrickson. But Jean-Louis Rudolph is over that. And that should be a penalty. Fantastic play by Jean-Louis Rudolph. So yeah, I'd say the Bulls probably are the top side at the moment. There's no reason why the Sharks... Oh no, that's a penalty for the Sharks. Okay, well that's an interesting one. And once again, now you can't afford to kick for goal. But if you were kicking for goal and you're taking the two opportunities earlier, now they kick for goal. I mean, really? Yeah, Yeah, so the Bulls definitely the dominant side at the moment. Sharks have everything in their arsenal to be one of the best sides, and the Lions are looking a lot better in the last couple of weeks. So lots of young stars. So I'd say Western Province are currently underperforming, but a decent coach, and they could also be competitive. KPMG says, with contact sport, will always be that risk unless they ban all the sports. We can just hope that people in charge do all they can to limit the risks. In the NFL, we saw the helmet backfire. Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, take the precautions. You know, put all the mechanisms in place, and then you have to go with it and try and accept that there will always be that risk, but make sure you're doing everything to minimize it. And Curran Bosch lines us up. Quite a simple kick, so there should be 20-10. And is no issues there. And that should have been 2016 if they had taken the opportunities earlier. But choosing not to and paying the price a little bit for that.
Opposition, numerous occasions, and it's vital to get that scoreboard ticking over, especially with 3.5 minutes until half time. Now this is a vital situation again. Blommetjies has kicked off beautifully, and the receiver needs to make sure.
And that's not a great kick secure. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll see that it's my pet hate is going and getting a penalty and then not being able to regather. And the Cheetahs are suddenly through. Jean Rudolph has picked it up but dropped it, so there will be a knock-on for the Cheetahs. But yeah, the Sharks are getting back into the game a little bit. It was a much better passage of play there. Nice gap line run by Yarpenke. And then a good penalty won by them. But suddenly the Cheetahs can try and hit back. And that's the big thing, especially when you try and win games, is to try and score points quickly after the other side has. Are you a Shark? No, I'm a Lion. I'm a big Lions fan. Grew up in Johannesburg, so Ellis Park was the standard weekend destination. Can't wait to get back there. Been through all the bad and the good with the Lions. Thankfully now it's looking a bit better. At the beginning of the year it wasn't looking great. Right, so just over 2 minutes until half time. Cheetahs with a nice opportunity from the scrum here. I think probably the best result for them, well not the best result, but a nice result from them will be get a scrum penalty and kick it over and try and reassert that 13-point advantage. But the Sharks just guilty of not being able to retain the kickoff, because that's how the Cheetahs scored in the first minute, and now suddenly they've let themselves back in, well, let the Cheetahs back into the game with once again a pretty poor kick regather, and that's a big scrum by the Cheetahs. It will be a reset. But Cheetahs suddenly starting to get a bit of scrum dominance, which is dangerous for the Sharks. Yeah, Sharks struggling here at the front row, and that is their biggest issue. You know, Thomas Toy quite injury prone at the moment. Struggling a bit with trying to settle on a hooker. We've seen Kieran van Vuren, we've seen Dylan Richardson fill in there, where he's moved to the flank more and more. We've seen Dan Ewers to play a lot, so bit of an unsettled front row for the Sharks, except for Oxen Chair. He's proving to be massive for them, but that's a much better scrum. And John Rudolph has to use that. And Steyn used a bit of a battering ram. 1 minute, so a big chance for the Cheetahs to try and score some points here before half time. Oh, and Blommetjies has lost it, but it's been well picked up by Rainer Smith. Now he's having a bit of a go. Well, that's a very good carry by Bowen Fenty. He makes some yards. Cheetahs just about 10 meters out. Yeah, a bit disjointed there. Not great. It's been picked up by Jean Rudolph. Now Ansila tries to take it up. This is a big test of the Sharks' defense. Cannot afford to concede points before half time. And the Cheetahs have... Ooh, Ruben de Haas taking it quickly. And Rainer Smith goes into the corner. That's the last thing the Sharks needed. The Cheetahs are over as the hooter goes. So that is 25-10 with a difficult kick to come. But that is a fantastic first half performance by the Cheetahs, and an interesting decision by Ruben de Haas to take it quickly there. I probably thought it was the wrong decision because they could have just kicked over and taken the 3, but spotting a lot of space out wide. You can see it. He makes a glance, and there's a huge overlap, and Rainer Smith just completely waltzes over, really. So some good awareness there by Ruben de Haas. He played well last weekend. With a kick to come, it's a very dominant performance in the first half there by the Cheetahs, and work to do for the Sharks.
17 caps, he scored 5 tries for them. He hails from Little Rock, Rugby Club. Yeah, high school at Jesseville High School in Arkansas.
I started supporting Leinster from 2011 when we won our first European Cup. I've been to many games between the Aviva Stadium and the RDS. I'd love to go and watch a game over there in the Aviva Stadium. I'd love to do. It's been a bucket list thing for me is to get over and watch an end of year tour, and just follow the box and go Aviva Stadium, Twickenham, go and tick them all off. Millennium Stadium, go and do it all. Love to go watch some European rugby. Very excited for the Rainbow Cup. And to play against sides like Leinster and Munster and, you know, Scarlets and all the likes. And that's another great kick by France Steyn. So 27-10 is the halftime score. Cheetahs came out firing. And they just haven't really stopped. They've been very good at taking the opportunities. The Sharks have turned down 6 points. So they'll be a bit frustrated at that. But, you know, you've got to live and die by your decisions. They decide not to take the points, and they're paying the price, because it could have been 27-16, but kept trying to go for the line, which didn't really make much sense because they didn't exactly have a lot of maul dominance. It's not like every single maul they had, they were getting past the advantage line, they were making progress, they were struggling a little bit. So yeah, half-time Cheetahs with a very strong advantage, and they need to win this game if they're going to keep their semi-final chance alive. I'll tell you right now, the Western Province and the Lions will be watching this and not enjoying what they're seeing, because suddenly it means the Cheetahs can suddenly catch them if they win this game. What's happening in the cricket? Faf du Plessis 51, there we go. Nice little rebuild there from the Proteas. It's just all happening. It's Boxing Day, we've got Premier League football going on, we've got Test match cricket going on. It is all happening, but right now we're locked on the Currie Cup.
So ask yourself, what would fill their heart with joy?
Let's shut you up there. Right, so Sunday afternoon, 5:20 in South Africa, and we are watching Currie Cup rugby. Very, very different, but I quite enjoy it actually. It's been quite nice having a bit of rugby over the festive period in South Africa. We haven't really had it before, but yeah, I mean usually it's cricket and football, so to have a bit of rugby makes quite a nice change. So I'm certainly not going to complain. But Currie Cup getting to the business end here. I think about 2 rounds left after this. And then we are into semis and a final, which is going to be really cool. Can't wait to do that. Definitely be doing live streams of the final and the semis in January. So make sure you smash like on the video as well. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We are trying to hit 400 before the end of the year. We need just 17, so do subscribe if you are new. Can't remember what year it was, how devastating what early red card the Lions got in the Super Rugby final. Even though it's not my team, I was gutted myself. That was 2017? 2016, yeah, 2017, because that was the first home final. 2016 was away. It was 2017 when Kwaka Smith got sent off. I actually missed the match watching it live, which was, as a Lions fan, blooming useless. But I was busy playing football, I think. Yeah, that was the season where the Lions just looked so good and looked like they were going to go all the way. And then Kwaka Smith got that red card, and that was it. And that was one of the big sort of examples they use in terms of relooking the red card rule. So interesting to see what people think about that. You know, some suggestions that when it comes to red cards, potentially looking at you know, a case where the player goes off for 20 minutes or goes off, they don't play, and then after 20 minutes they can bring on a different player. So kind of a few conversations that have continuously been had about red cards and about how you deal with red cards, because I mean, as you say, the final there, red card early, and suddenly an entire season, you know, it gets defined by one big moment. So it's difficult. Why isn't Corsi not playing? I've been trying to find out, actually. I was a bit late to the party and trying to find out what's going on. So now that we've got half time, let me try and find out what the story actually is. Because we've had two changes. Yeah, that was the big change to the team. A big miss, actually, at the moment, because he's been playing some very nice rugby. But let me try and find out what is actually happening with him. I said, I wasn't supposed to be doing a live watch along, so thank you everybody who has joined us. It was all very last minute. So let me try and find out what's happening. So if anybody in the comments that's watching knows what happened with Spoon Corsi and why he's been ruled out, it usually means that he's come in contact with someone. It could be an injury. Because Pessi Buthelezi also not on the bench from the looks of it. So, yeah, so let me try and find out what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest frustration the Sharks fans is that they've gone for touch a couple of times where they could have gone for poles. And Curran Bosch has not kicked for touch particularly well. One particular big moment where they managed to get away with it because the Cheetahs tried to run it up and knocked it on. But, yeah, we actually tried to keep it, and he kicked it and didn't actually go out. Roxer Speckman keeping it in. Why was this match moved to Sunday? It was actually a Sharks request to move to Sunday, I think, because they didn't want to travel on Christmas Day. I think they were trying to give Christmas at home for with their family and stuff like that. So they didn't want to travel like the Greek was had to travel to Cape Town yesterday, well, on Christmas Day for the match yesterday. So they moved this game to Sunday to try and accommodate that, which I don't think is the worst thing. I mean, over this period, does it really matter if it's a Saturday, Sunday? Most people aren't working anyway. Most people, I mean, it's that stage in South Africa where we just braai every day, really. But yeah, so that's why it was moved. Other matches that have been moved, in case you've missed it, the Bulls versus the Lions obviously didn't happen last night. That will be on the 6th of January on Wednesday. So we'll definitely try and be live for that one as well. Right, some stats for you of the first half. 3 tries scored for the Cheetahs, obviously the 1 to the Sharks. 5 handling errors to Cheetahs, 7 Sharks. 6 penalties conceded, 8 conceded by the Sharks. 26-37 is the tackle count. The Cheetahs have missed 10 tackles for the Sharks 4. So the Sharks' defense has actually been better. 4 out of 5 lineouts for the Cheetahs, 5 out of 5 for the Sharks. But they've all won all their scrums. Possession-wise, 54% possession for the Cheetahs, and territory 58%. So that has been the big thing, that the Sharks have sort of struggled to get into the danger area, really, for themselves. And unfortunately for the Sharks, already a couple of changes. Apollo Fassi's on the field already. Who replacing Corsi? Werner Koch has started ahead of him. On the bench, however, I'm not entirely sure. I'm trying to find that out, looking for that now. It looks like it is Madosh Tambwe has come in on the bench, so he will replace. He's replaced Werner Koch, and Werner Koch has come in and has started. Sean Farrell says, I'm happy it's happening because I get fed up seeing Leinster get almost 40 plus wins in almost every game, and Leinster often win with a second or 13. Plus, I feel it will help. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how it's going. Some people are sort of saying that. Actually, yeah, I mean, it's going to go either way, really. I mean, it could be a case. I've always sort of wondered what the sort of being able to try and find what the standard is, because you obviously saw the Cheetahs that did quite well in the one season, but the Kings were sort of nowhere. So much stronger South African sides will hopefully make it a much bigger competition. And with the money that hopefully it'll start raising, it means that the South African sides can just get better. And yeah, it's the better the competition gets, you know, the more audiences, the more money it generates, and that hopefully it'll be a big boost for the existing teams as well. You know, you think your sort of Irish, Welsh sides, Scottish sides, if there's more revenue coming in as a result of a bigger audience, then they can also start bringing in better players. And so in theory, it's one of those things where if you can get it right as a tournament, You know, all the clubs will improve as a result of it. KPMG says, if it wasn't for the Thunder risk, I do enjoy rugby this time of year. Look, that has been a problem, and we've seen it a couple of games. But I think you have to be proactive, and that's what I enjoyed about 2 weeks ago when it was the Sharks versus the Bulls, I think it was, when the game was actually brought earlier than it was supposed to be to accommodate for that. They said that they looked at the weather and there was rain warning, so they did move the game. And you can do that, especially with no fans. Obviously, when you've got fans, it's a bit more difficult to do that. But I've always said that we need to be more proactive about this. And I mean, things like cricket as well. When you sit there looking at weather and you can see there's going to be an issue, why not sit there and say, well, should we start half an hour earlier? Or can we try and reduce certain breaks here and there to try and get more action in? So it's good to see that it's been a lot more proactive this season, you know, with games being moved to accommodate COVID, with games being moved a day back to accommodate traveling. We've seen games being moved for weather. So yeah, it's been an interesting time, and I think, you know, there's been some negativity about the fact that some games have been cancelled and some games have, you know, had weakened teams, but that's just the situation we're in. So you can choose to get upset about it, or you can embrace it and just understand that this is the current situation, and, you know, that's how it has to be for now. And we'll get back to audiences and stuff like that. I mean, we've got so much rugby to look forward to next year. It's going to be a huge year. British and Irish Lions incoming tour, Rainbow Cup for the big four South African sides, an outgoing tour at the end of the year. It should be fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait. And I'm just fingers crossed that we have to get fans in for the British and Irish Lions tour. Otherwise, I'll spend a lot of money on tickets, and I'd rather go to the game than get a refund, to be honest. Hey, people watching, thank you very much for coming and hanging out and joining me here. Let me know where you are watching it from. Previous streams, we have people from all over the world, so let me know where you're watching it from, who you're supporting, who you're backing. The halftime score is 27-10, so let's try and chuck a message over here and find out what everybody reckons the full-time score is. Okay, KPMG says, I know the Cheetahs and Kings, they couldn't qualify for the Currie Cup. Do we know yet if our new setup will be able to? Right now, as far as I understand, no. But I think there are more talks about it potentially happening. And that would be the ideal situation. I mean, can you imagine, let's say, a Bulls versus, you know, Gloucester at Loftus, you know, or playing some, some fantastic sides. So I'd love to see the European Cup. I mean, can you imagine, you know, seeing Harlequins games in South Africa, you know, that kind of thing? It would be so much fun. And that's what we need to do. We need to try and make, I think, rugby competitions a bit more global, a bit more big. I mean, the European Cup, I've always been so envious of the European Cup and having a bit of the football equivalent to the Champions League. And it's always just made so much sense when it comes to South African sides. I understand that we're Southern Hemisphere, but I mean, bloody hell, sitting there waking up at 6 in the morning to go and watch, you know, us play in Japan or play in Argentina late at night and stuff like that just hasn't really worked. Whereas now you can go watch South Africa versus Munster at 7 p.m. in South African time, you know. So hopefully this will be a big thing for audiences and stuff like that. You know, more TV revenue, bigger audiences at games, more diverse audiences. You know, you can now actually go and travel down to South Africa or travel up to the UK and watch a bit of club rugby, which would be very cool. Also means you get to see more players, because I think that, you know, a lot of South African players, South African fans are guilty of not really watching much over there, and then we go on these outgoing tours and we sit there playing against players we don't know. Will the South African players come back to play for their original clubs next year in the Pro 16, or will they stay with the clubs they're with now? So it depends on the player. So there are some players who are having sabbaticals, the likes of Makazole Mapimpi. He is still contracted with the Sharks and is expected to come back. But players like Malcolm Marx have gone to Japan permanently. What is quite interesting, however, is Rassie Erasmus has been quite vocal about the fact that he wants players either in Europe or back in South Africa. He doesn't really rate the standard of rugby in Japan, and he wants players coming back to South Africa. So hopefully that means the likes of Jesse Creel, Malcolm Marx, Kwagga Smith, They're all sort of coming back to South Africa. And I'm also hoping that with some more revenue, we can get some of the European players back in the South African franchises. You know, I'd love to. Imagine Faf de Klerk back at the Lions and the likes of those. You know, he won't because he's being paid too much money. But you've got a lot of fringe players who've gone overseas and signed bigger contracts. But I think, you know, a lot of it is just the money. So if you can start matching the money, even if you're not matching it directly, but making it worthwhile while still being able to live at home in South Africa, that's ideal. But the nice thing is, if you try to start to get the Springbok squad all playing in the same sort of competition, then that is the ideal situation. So we have had Kickoff over here. So right, so William Small-Smith is over. He got clear, but another clash, and he does not look happy. So that's not great. That's 2 HIAs failed today so far. So obviously Cheetahs playing left to right at the moment. Yeah, with a 27-10 lead. We've got a scrum in the middle of the park. I think even money-wise, us moving north would help a lot, definitely. Seen an article talking about the Rugby World Club Championship saying 2022 the South African sides will qualify for Champions Cup. I could be wrong. Yeah, there's a lot of conversations at the moment. I don't think too much clarity, but that would be my dream. I mean, to try and get the best clubs in the world. And you know what? I think that New Zealand sort of they got quite snobby, I think, with when they had their Super Rugby Aratoa, and they had because New Zealand have dominated Super Rugby for so many years, and they sitting there saying, well, we don't need South African sides, you know, and then had their own couple of games within Australia. And I think a lot of them were quite sniffy, saying, well, why do we need South African sides? No, that's the case. Then bugger them. You know, I certainly didn't particularly enjoy going and getting thrashed by the Crusaders. You know, I enjoy watching a lot of New Zealand rugby players play, and some of the New Zealand rugby is very good to watch. But, you know, you're waking up at awkward times, watching rugby at awkward times, and the money wasn't great. And so financially it never really made sense. And, yeah, so if that's what they want to do, then crack on, and let's try and stick to time zones. So some good pressure there by Jadon Hendrickse, who's forced a line out. I like Hendrickse. I think he's a very good young player. Watched him a lot for the under-20s, and he's a nice player. And so, the depth of scrum off the Sharks got at the moment is very impressive. Lots of options there. Let me just sort the scoreboard here. Right, so Aditya Nsila tries to carry it up here. So a decent start here by the Cheetahs. I think the important thing at the moment for the Sharks is they need to score first. If they want to try and get into this game and be competitive, they need to score first. Because if they don't, it could get ugly. Sands was a bit of a joke the last 10 years. The conference system killed Super Rugby for me. 2 tiers would have been better. Yeah, I always said the same thing. You know, it just, instead of going conferences and stuff like that, have a top 8 and bottom 8. And, you know, and use like that. And have relegation and promotion. That's the one thing with rugby I've never quite understand. So I think that's something that football have gotten quite right. Is the idea of promotion and relegation. And the idea that, you know, try and keep your best side, instead of trying to continuously expand competitions, you know, in competitions where there's such a big disparity, try and get a promotion relegation system going there. I just don't like the 28-0 penalty for COVID issues. I think a 0-0 draw would be better. Well, it is a 0-0 draw for the Currie Cup at the moment. If a game gets called off, it's called a draw, 2 points each. Which, funny enough, a lot of people haven't liked, and they prefer the European style of giving it a 28-0 victory to whichever side was the reason it had to be called off. I'm not sure which is better, to be honest. I know. It's very easy to sit there and say, well, it's their fault, but can you really say it's somebody's fault? Because it could be anyone. You know, it's difficult to say, oh well, they've had a COVID case, therefore it's their fault. you know, because they didn't follow the protocols. I mean, the protocols, you can follow the protocols as much as you want. It's very difficult to prevent things like that happening. So after a bit of a sloppy start here, Cheetahs have got a scrum inside their own half. Again, solid scrum. Neither side really getting much of an advantage there. Oh, that's a good gap. Ah, it's forward. It's a great gap run by Frostane, but the Frost did drift a bit forward. Ran it from Randall Smith. It would have been a big moment there, because I think another try here from the Cheetahs, and I think that they've pretty much sealed it. The Sharks need to score relatively early to try and get back into this game. If they'd taken points on offer, then they probably would have been a bit better. But it's been a bit of a frustrating game where we haven't managed to see much actual rugby, to be honest. How can it even be a food delivery that caused it? It still seems so fair. So it's, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, it's so, I mean, you can't create a bio bubble. I mean, if you think about the complexities of it, and even in the bio bubble, they saw in the South Africa England series that there was one of the hotel staff, you know. So I mean, when do you end? Where does this bio bubble end? It becomes so big so quickly, you know, because you can only have so many people being isolated. And that's poor from Fassi, who Sharks managed to get a bit of go for it ball, and he decided to try and chip ahead, and it's stripped it straight into touch. So yeah, Sharks has not been clinical. Haven't had the best performance so far. It's a bit worrying for Sharks fans, to be honest, because this is now a second game in a row where they haven't been good. Since the Bulls game, where they beat the Bulls, it should have been a draw if Morningstar hadn't missed that kick, but deserved to beat them. Have just not been particularly clinical. So Reinhard Boateng goes high. There's three players chasing there. Clayton Blommetjies. That's a good take by Fassi, who managed to clean up there. And the Sharks have done well to keep that. Although the Cheetahs have come through, it looks like a bit of a turnover. But the Sharks have managed to retain that. Decent chase there from the Cheetahs. But now the Sharks must have to restart from well within their half. That's something that's been the problem with the Sharks. It's just a couple of basic areas where it's counted. You know, knock-ons, some poor kicks. Currie Bosch puts that very high. No one. Ooh, it's a poor kick from Rena for 20, and Sincele's in front, so that will be a penalty. They've taken it quickly. Jeepers. Hendricks has smashed there by Clayton Blommetjies, but they still got a bit of go forward ball. Oh, it's just so messy. There we go. Now, Penke puts in the afterburners. He comes inside. Werner Koch. Oh, let's tackle out the ball. Oh, that's a yellow card. Well, it's Blitzbok on Blitzbok. So, Penke can fly down the right-hand side there. Try to bring it back to Werner Koch. And Roscoe Speckman looks like he did take him out without the ball. So, the time has been stopped. Okay, so the yellow card at the moment is the call. They are trying to find out if it should be upgraded to a penalty try as well, which it probably should have been, because I think as soon if Penke is getting that ball to Werner Koch, he's going over. I mean, he's right by the try line. Great run there by Penke. Comes inside to Ruben de Haas. He probably didn't need to offload that, in all honesty. If he had he had really stepped inside Ruben de Haas. If he continued going, he would have scored. I don't know why he offloaded that. It's definitely it's a penalty try, so it won't matter in the end. So that's 7 points to the Cheetahs on the looks of it. Roscoe Speckman, look, he had to make it really. He was never going to stop that. I'm assuming France will join another SA team. The Cheetahs don't go into another North competition? Any guesses? I'm actually not so sure because Francois Steyn went back to the Cheetahs because of other reasons as well, you know, and he does a lot of farming and stuff like that. So, and I think he has a farm in the Free State, which is hence the reason he sort of went back there. Ruan Pino as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they are coming towards the end of their career. And I know, as I said, I know France State has a farm in the Free State, so I think that was a big factor for him coming back to the Cheetahs. So look, I mean, if he wants to continue playing top rugby, he will need to look at another side. So that is the yellow card for Roscoe Speckman. He goes off there, but not a penalty try. So the Sharks will go for the line here. And to be fair to Ross Speckman, if the Cheetahs can manage to defend this, then that's a yellow card that's worth taking, to be honest, because the Sharks will wait. If Jalpenke had just not released, I mean, he stepped inside Ruben de Haas. He was making a tackle, but he actually got through the tackle, and he would have gone over if he just delayed that pass and been able to make that call earlier. But Sharks have managed to get a bit of momentum. Cheetahs are desperately keeping them out there. So you can Noche has had a go. And the Cheetahs have ripped it in the tackle, so that's a big moment in the game. Roscoe Speckman has gotten a yellow card, but it looks like he's saved a certain shot. And that's a big moment for the Sharks, because they really needed to get points there. And France State now kicks it upfield. It's a huge kick. KP says, so the Lions and Bulls will be the closest. I'll tell you, if I was the Lions, I would snap them up very, very quickly. Look, the Bulls also need an inside centre. There was talks that they are after him, so I'm sure that's inevitably where he'll go. Cornell Hendricks has been doing very well at inside centre, but I mean, Jake White's not going to turn down France State now, is he? So that would probably make the most sense if he does lead the Cheetahs. Depends on, you know, is he looking at, oh dear, we've got somebody down, well, we've got a golf, is that Heba Mayer? The golf cart is on with the stretcher, so that's another injury, which doesn't look great. I think this looks like a neck injury. John Hubert Mayer is down. A couple of injuries this game, which hasn't been particularly good watching in that respect. Thankfully, William Small-Smith did walk off, and despite not coming back on, so that looks like the end of John Hubert Mayer's game, which means that Mark Kumbarai will be on. I heard rumors of Cheetahs joining a Russian and Georgian league, and they might go into Challenge Cup. But if I thought a league table would work, I would like that format for Pro 16. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does look like, I mean, I think they said they were announcing in the next week or two where they are going. There was talks about a Russian league. I've heard of quite a few players actually moving off to Russia. I'm not quite sure what the scene is up there. I'll probably do a bit of research and find out what the story is. But I'll be very surprised if France State still has rugby ambitions, especially if he wants to play in that British and Irish Lions tour. Probably will have to make a switch to a Bulls or a Lions. It'll probably be Bulls. In fact, it'll pretty much definitely be with Bulls. Right, so 10 minutes to go on in the second half, and the Sharks have not managed to find any points on the board. They really need to get points on the board if they are to get something out of the game. This doesn't look good for John Hubert Mayer. He's being strapped up very well to the stretcher. Yeah, it's a neck injury. Bone Fenter collides with him in his shoulder. So it doesn't look good for Hubert Mayer at all. Especially when it comes to props. Neck injuries, spinal injuries, that can be career ending depending on the injury, but let's not make any assumptions. But it definitely doesn't look good. So it's a yellow card. I'm not sure I agree with this once again. You know, this whole, just because it's contact with the head, I understand that. But he's not going in upright. And I understand it's a serious injury, but this is really pissing me off. I mean, what's he supposed to do? He can't lead with the arm like this. He has to... Yeah, it's very frustrating, this. Well, that's nice. Bonafente has to walk on to get his marching orders. Yeah, it's really pissing me off, the yellow cards at the moment, especially the fact that the conversation is we start with the red card and we work down. And now we've seen 2 yellow cards here, and this is the issue. There's just too many yellow cards for the collisions. And at what point do you start sitting there and take a stand and say, well, you know what, it's a certain part. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he's supposed to do. Yes, it is a bit high, but I mean, he's very low. He's mid tackle. So, you know, if you're asking people not to go in for the tackle, it's, yeah. Right, so the Sharks are going for the scrum here because that'll have to obviously bring on Bonafente's replacement. There we've got 2 Cheetahs in the bin at the moment, so pretty prime time. And so this is big for the Sharks. I mean, they've got about 5-6 minutes against 13 men taking the scrum now at the moment, which means that they're either not going to match them at the scrum or they're going to leave a lot of space out wide. Okay, so Mahoja has gone off, so they can bring on a specialist prop. Right, so if there was ever a chance for the Sharks to start staging a bit of a comeback, then this is it. Down to 13 men. And new prop, reset scrum. Here we go. Accidental should be looked at afterwards and result in the match ban, not ruin the game. I tend to agree. It's very frustrating as soon as there's any sort of contact with the head, the immediate thing is, right, it's a red card, and why is it not a red card? And then they mitigate down to a yellow and stuff like that. But it is just getting very hectic because you now just can't go into a tackle at all. I mean, the idea of sort of somebody could be tackling someone, there's still a lot of momentum being hit, but you're not allowed to go in and try and prevent that forward momentum at risk of trying to, because there could be a head clash. And as soon as the head clash, you're pretty much guaranteed to go off. So the Bull Sharks have completely stuffed this one up. Kerwin Bosch went to the blind side with a terrible pass by Werner Koch. There is a penalty for them, so they can try again. I'll tell you, if the Sharks win this, I don't think it's particularly deserved. They have not played well today at all. I mean, they've tackled reasonably well, and they've been relatively solid on defense, but just, yeah, on the attack, when they've got that ball in their hand, just haven't been able to do much with it. So, Sharks go for the line this time. And there has been sacked, though, so not great by them. Hendricks Ward tries to shift inside. That should be another penalty. Yep, and another penalty. Tell you what, if the Cheetahs don't be careful, they're going to find themselves 3 in the bin. But wearing down the time well here. Okay, so the sack was too late. That was the result of the penalty here. They will go for the line as well. But Cheetahs eating up time here, and they can try and get Roscoe Speckman on the park pretty soon. Please do smash a like if you enjoy this type of thing. We're going to be doing a lot more in the coming weeks. We want to try and average at least one watch along a week, which is going to be very cool when we get to things like the Rainbow Cup and we've got lots more rugby going and we have to try and choose our games quite carefully. But the Sharks have got some more momentum here from a maul. Finally, this is what they've needed for a while. Jean Rudolph has come through the middle though, and he's got his arms all over that. So if this is held up by the Cheetahs, then that's some brilliant defense. Yep, they've done it. They've done it. Jean Rudolph take a bow, came through the middle, wrapped his hands around the ball, and they've stopped. There. So that's a big moment for the Cheetahs. And this is the problem with the Sharks. You know, they're down to a 13-man advantage, and they still haven't managed to score any points. And I mean, with the game, I mean, look, it's 52 minutes, so it's early days still in the grand scheme of things. But this is the problem; they're just struggling to get those points. Rumors of Currie joining the Bulls. I don't always trust rumors. Bulls are always bad at keeping secrets. Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know what's happening with Johan Currie. There's been a lot of, I mean, between him retiring and not retiring, and now suddenly regretting and stuff like that. It looks like I mean, from the sounds of it, he's not going to get a new contract. So it looks like he will be on the move very soon. Whether he's going to come back here, but I mean, when he pretty much came out and said that he's got no plans as of yet, and he'll deal with it when he gets there. But yeah, I mean, the Bulls will just sign absolutely everyone and anyone at the moment, from the looks of it, just to try and make their squad unbeatable, which it is working to a certain degree. So can't really blame them so far. And now the Cheetahs have won an advantage. And despite going down to 13 men, looks like they will manage to, yeah, they slow it down. This should allow Oscar Speckman some more time and hopefully go back to the field. Fantastic by the Cheetahs. They've deserved this so far. Sharks have just not been good. When it comes down to it, they need to deliver in your set pieces. You've got to take advantage of the situation. They just haven't. Right, so France Day now kicks downfield and he finds touch inside the Sharks' half. So Cheetahs have got away with that one. Credit to them, because they didn't have the numerical advantage and they still managed to not concede any points. And not to harp on, but I understand with the numerical advantage stuff like that. But you know, if the Sharks had taken the penalties earlier, they would have won 16 points. They could have won 19 points, then we kicked it again and try and get up to the other side. They've had the chances to try and reduce this deficit, and they haven't taken. As a result, the deficit's just remained. And if the Cheetahs score here, then that's pretty much game over for the Sharks. So another advantage for the Cheetahs. So Renan Fortin puts that very, very high. It's a good take by Kawasi, but they'll go back for a penalty. Sharks discipline has cost them today, you know, and just a couple of very poor penalties which weren't needed. Michael Kumbarai penalised there a bit harshly. I mean, he had his hands on the chair. It wasn't doing much to it. It was told to let go and didn't, and gets penalised.
Kumbarai, 18, straight in from the side, in front of the referee. No, it's one of their station.
After the Sharks beat the Bulls, I didn't think it was because the Bulls were bad, even if it ended a draw. I don't understand how they fell so quickly. Neither do I, because the Sharks looked really good. It looked like it was much more like the side that dominated pre-lockdown. But since then, weren't particularly good against the Lions and have been very poor today. It must be said. And here come some replacements. So Temulani Boli on, as well as Fez and Barty. So yeah, a bit of impact coming with the bench is what Sean Everett's hoping. But France Steyn has lined up a kick, and it looks like it's gone off to the right. No, he's gotten it. He's nailed that. So they open up a 20-point advantage with 14 minutes left to play. The Cheetahs well in the driving seat here. Right, so Bolly on here for Richardson, so that adds a bit of grunt and physicality up there, and Fezenbarty come on for Kieran van Vuren. So 40 minutes to play, a 20-point difference. And the Sharks have retained the kickoff. A bit broken up here, and they look, oh no. Reno Smith has intercepted, he's still going. And the Cheetahs suddenly, if the Cheetahs strike here, then that will just sum up the day. With the Sharks trying to be a bit more expansive, they swing that wide, and that does go out, thankfully for the Sharks. And that's just, once again, you know, a big pass, a bit of a nothing pass there thrown by Bolly, and Reno Smith was all over that, jumps on there. And looked like he was away, to be honest. And that's it, Roscoe Speckman is on. So despite being down to 30 men, no points scored there, still down to 14. And the Sharks have got 12 minutes now. Well, 13. Let me just fix this clock. And they need to score quickly. They're going to try and turn around a 20-point deficit. They need to score 3 tries in about 22 minutes. They have gotten a penalty here for offside. So Hendricks is off on his bicycle. He's got support here from Chico Noche. Stop doing that! He's guilty of that a lot. So Chico Noche and no control. One hand trying to pass it. And as soon as you get tackled, you lose the ball there. If he had just taken the contact or taken the pass, made the pass earlier, it could have been away there. It was well done by Hendricks, sir. Decent run by Chico Noche. Saw the man out wide, but puts the ball in one hand and can't control it. So I think, yeah, if I was to take the contact, try and recycle, you've already got the front foot ball there. That just sums it up. The Sharks sometimes just not being willing to be patient enough and just always trying to get that instant sort of gratification, and that's what's hurt them so far this afternoon. And the Sharks have done that. The Sharks have won from the line out, so that's a big step by them. And another opportunity now from the scrum for the Sharks to try and do something. It is very odd how after playing so well against the Bulls, the Sharks really have struggled since that game. And the Cheetahs have kind of been a bit sort of up and down the entire tournament. They've had some very good games and had some very poor games. So inconsistency probably been their biggest issue. But when they play well, they can be a very good side. I mean, they beat the Bulls. They're the only side so far to have beaten the Bulls. Right, so Open Mohoja coming off there on the 60-minute mark. A decent game for him. A good first start. Nice to see him back. He's a big win to have for the Cheetahs. So it's good to see him back on the park. He took a long time since he was playing for the Springboks. So, yeah, it's an horrific injury which really has stunted his career. But good to see him back. Right, so on the 60-minute mark, Sharks got a scrum. 20-point difference. 30-10 to the Cheetahs at the moment. Bit of a wraparound. And it's been dropped by Penke. And it's been dropped by Roscoe Speckman. Yeah, it's sloppy. It's very sloppy. Sharks trying to be a bit fancy and Penke knocks it on. Roscoe Speckman, if he had hung on to that, would have been away, but he also knocked it on, and now it'll be a scrum in the halfway for the Cheetahs. And it's poor by Penke. It was on, I mean, he's in the breadbasket, right where he wanted it, and just knocked it on. Aston Fortuin going on. And JJ van der Mesht is on the park. Wasn't supposed to be part of the lineup. Was supposed to be Ruben van Heerden. Madosh Tamwe is on Werner Kok, who Tamwe wasn't supposed to be involved at all. But is now going to be asked to try and produce something a bit special. Now tempers are flying here. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Kickoff has come off on the flank and decided to have a bit of a go at them. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Seems like a Bulls Lions final at the moment. Stormers might jump in. Yeah, look, the Western Province for me are just too inconsistent. I think they're underperforming immensely at the moment. So I think if the Lions secure second place and have that home semi-final, then I think it will probably be a Bulls Lions final up on the high file, which will be interesting because neither side will really have much of an advantage. There's a massive advantage playing at the high field as opposed to playing at sea level. Playing at Loftus, playing at Ellis. Not much of a difference. A much better scrum there from the Sharks. They've gotten a penalty here. Oh, jeepers. You just can't pass the ball at the moment. They've gotten a penalty, but it's really been poor. I mean, the Sharks have genuinely not looked like a side that deserves to be playing within the top 4 sides of the country at the moment today. Sounds very harsh, but they've just been so... The handling's been poor, the passing's been poor. It just genuinely has not been a particularly good performance. Okay, and that's what they've needed for a while. Currie finds touch in the corner. He's tried it a couple of times to come up short, but this is the big moment for the Sharks. Right, so the Sharks now on the 5-meter line. Need to score here if they're going to try and make anything of this game, but they've knocked it on. And Randall Smith managed to keep that in. I have no idea how. He was right next to the line. But that just sums it up, really. Every single time they had an opportunity, they just haven't taken it. JJ van der Mesh trying to get involved now. And it's been turned over. It's just... No, they've managed to keep it back. They've got an overlap. Yao Penke gives himself, manages to stay in. Look, it must be said that this isn't necessarily the Sharks' best side. A couple of COVID cases, which has kept some of the best players out, but definitely had enough, and that's been intercepted, and that's been knocked on. Can you show us the TV? No, I can't. That is against copyright law, so unfortunately, unless I want this channel to be banned, I cannot do that. So this is the next best thing, hopefully. Right, time stopped. Yeah, 30-10 is the score, and it's just been having a water break here, and the Sharks have been very poor today. Just haven't been clinical, haven't been able to string much together. Handling's been pretty poor, the passing's been poor, haven't had much creativity, haven't been able to sort of have any big moments. Struggle to find scrum dominance, which never ever helps. The Cheetahs have had the edge when it comes to scrum time, which is a big platform for them to use. But the Cheetahs have just been better. So you can't really say much about them. I'm having a lot to say, but it would take a massive effort right now if they were to try and get something out of this game. Were you raised in rugby? Was there a big moment? Mine was 2007 World Cup and the Bulls win in 2009. Yeah, look, I grew up watching all sport, basically. Football, cricket, and rugby. From when I could understand what sport was, I was watching it all. Dad's a huge sports fan, so by the time we got to the 2007 World Cup, I was very invested, So yeah, I've just watched everything, really. Weekends is all about watching whatever sport is on TV, so yeah. Right, so that's from Francis Dane. Received 13 passes, made 8 runs, kicked very well today. I mean, I don't think he's missed one yet. So that's been a big moment. Once again, Andy Sensila has been very good for the Cheetahs, very industrious, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked up by one of the other unions as well. Was at the Sharks for a stint, now playing some very nice rugby at the Cheetahs. Right, so we'll resume with a scrum in the middle of the park. Penke has been the go-to ball carrier the entire game. But that's over by the Cheetahs. They've missed it though. Is that play on the ground? Right, so penalty here for the Sharks. Big call to make. 64 minutes on the clock. Do they try and go for... Oh, sorry, for the Cheetahs here. So can France Steyn knock it over from here, or are they going to go to the corner? It looks like they're going to go for the corner. Probably on the edge of his range, to be fair. He probably would have had the distance if he went for it. But I think for the Cheetahs at the moment, get down to the Shark side, waste some time. And France Steyn gets the Cheetahs to within the 22. And I think this could be the game lost for the Sharks, especially if the Cheetahs score here. So Henke Venter runs into Jean-De Rudolph and Ashton Davis, and and they're both just over there. And that's not the first time. I mean, the Cheetahs have... This game has been so... It's not been a particularly watchable game, if I'm very, very honest. I mean, the handling stats must be appalling, which we'll go into that in the post-match. But, yeah, so a knock-on there from the Cheetahs, which means the Sharks will have a line-out, because it was not into... Well, it was dragged into touch there by... Was Tion Meyer. So total line-outs, 8 out of 9 from the Cheetahs, 10 out of 12 from the Sharks. So, yeah, I mean, it's just been a sloppy game, really. The scrums have been gotten better, with quite a few resets in the first half. Handling across the board's been pretty average. It's been a game of moments. You know, the Cheetahs have scored some nice tries and started off very hectically and very sort of quite broken play in the beginning. But I think the Sharks have just been guilty of not being clinical enough, and they're just, yeah. Right, so penalty there for offside for the Sharks, so they'll be able to get into the Cheetahs. The only thing the Sharks can hope for at the moment is probably a losing bonus point. They need to score 3 converted tries to try and get a victory out of this game, and they've got less than 40 minutes to do it. So time really is running out for the Sharks. Funniest thing I've ever seen was Pierce Beast's attempt to drop goal from the 70 meters in New Zealand of the Bulls. Obviously missed, but he had the distance. Pierce Beast was a hell of a player, and yeah, it's a very different sort of breed to number 8, and we sort of, in many ways, sort of changed the role a little bit of having these very physical, very good running balls. Well, I mean, always been physical, but having a very good ball carrying, quite somebody with a lot of pace in it at 8th man. But the Sharks have got a line out within the Cheetahs half, and Jeremy Ward is asked to bash it up. So if we are to be fair, there were a couple of changes for the Sharks. Not having Spoon Corsi has been a big... that's a forward pass. Oh, it just doesn't get much worse for the Sharks. It really has not been a good performance from them. And yes, they've missed a lot of players, but it's just basics. The basics haven't been good enough. Too many forward passes, too many knock-ons. That's a bit harsh, I think, to be honest, but... We've got the time off here. I'm not quite sure why. Hoping not another injury. Carl Vector's getting a bit of attention there. But yeah, it's just been poor. It hasn't been a great game to watch. Been very hot, so I think maybe conditions might have played a point. Or played a role. But this keeps the tournament very much alive. I mean, if we have to go and pull up the log, then a win here, this means the Cheetahs will move on to 24 points, which will be 3 points behind the Sharks. So suddenly they're back in the running. The Lions sitting on 29 points at the moment. Western Province 31 after yesterday. Bulls 35. So if the Lions manage to beat the Bulls, they can move up to 34 points, and that goes. Then they go within 1 point of the Bulls. But I think the Bulls have got premium of the Greek was, and the Lions have played more games than the Bulls themselves. So. Yeah, it's all shaping up here, but as I said, the Cheetahs, it was a must-win game for the Cheetahs, because if they lost this game, then that would have been it for them in the tournament. But they have kept themselves alive. They'll need other results to go their way, but they have kept themselves in the tournament. Probably too little too late. Big scrum there by the Sharks. There will be a reset though, as usual. I'd love to know the number of resets. It really hasn't been a particularly well-flowing game. But last 12 minutes, quite a forgettable game. Definitely not going to be one I'm going to be telling my children about. But it's rugby. We'll take it. It's a Sunday around Christmas time and we are watching rugby. So it's very odd. But this whole year has been odd. Okay, short time there. And the Cheetahs will kick it back down the field. Oh, that's a big mistake. So first you're not realizing that ball had actually been touched, dots it down, and that'll be... Yeah, shame. Not necessarily his fault. I don't think he knew. So the kick downfield was touched. Didn't realize it, so just tapped it down. So Cheetahs now have a 5-meter scrum as a result of it being inadvertently carried back. Was touched by a Sharks player and then Fussy putting it down, not realizing it. And suddenly the Cheetahs have a 5-meter scrum as we enter the last 10 minutes of the game. Oh, the scrums have been a disaster. It's just been early engagement after early engagement after reset after reset. Yeah, not a great advert for South African rugby, but hey. It's an important game result in the grand scheme of things. We didn't see a particularly great game last night between the West Province and the Griquas either, so it hasn't been a fantastic weekend of rugby for the viewer, but it has been rugby. And another reset. Stop wasting our time, people. Let's get going here. So Oxenshire has played 70 minutes here. Haven't substituted him at all. He's been immense for the Sharks all tournament. Right, so another reset. Hopefully we can try and get something going here. Just under 9 minutes in the game left. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Bottom right hand corner there, smash like on the video as well. Speckman's been well chased down there by Penke. Uses the same experience and manages to keep hold of the ball, however, but the Cheetahs are back to outside the 22. Ooh, that looked a bit forward, but it looks like Rainer Smith has gone over. That should be the end of the game. They might go back and look at the pass. Could have just been the angle, but it looks like that is it. Rainer Smith goes. He's been fantastic to come on, to be fair to him. But that is it. That is game, set, match. 8 minutes, less than 8 minutes to go. The Cheetahs run in another try. That is the bonus point for them. So they'll go on to 26 points. Yeah, I would be looking at that pass if I'm honest. Yeah, from that angle doesn't look too bad. Yeah, I think that's the final nail in the coffin for the Sharks, to be honest. They're not coming back from that, and they deserve it. The Cheetahs have been impressive today. That's just too much pace from Rainer Smith. Yeah, I think the direction of hands might save, but still a bit 50-50 if I'm honest in terms of that pass. They are having a look at it, so let me just reduce that because it hasn't been confirmed just yet. I've got time off when they looked at. Yeah, I think it was a bit 50-50 to be honest. Not convinced it was particular. Yeah, forward pass. It's about right to be honest. Had to be quick with the ball because he was being tackled, so the timing was right. But as I said, it did look a bit dodgy, and it has been. And they looked back, and I think the hands of the direction of his hands almost saved it, but they definitely did go forward. So right decision there. And Randall Smith, who has been very good since coming on, will not get a second try of the match. And Oxen Chair finally goes off. Not quite sure what the point of keeping him on was there, but I think they finally sort of conceded defeat. Thought that he was going to be a part of them trying to come back. But I think lots sort of back to the drawing board for the Sharks at the moment because they've been comprehensively outplayed in this game. Guess what, people? We've got another reset. It's been appalling. It's like it really has not been a nice game of rugby to watch. So as we move into the last few minutes of the game, the Cheetahs have completely outplayed the Sharks. And I think the Sharks will be a bit worried because this is now another game where they've, since beating the Bulls, where they played pretty well. They were poor against the Lions. They've been poor today against the Cheetahs. And yes, they are missing some big players. The likes of Spoon Corsi needs to come back. Marius Lowe has been very impressive. Sanel Nahamba, although I thought Jaden Hendrickson was alright, to be honest. But the front row they need to sort out. That's better. That's better. Now look, Kanye has a bit of space. And he sets players through. And Adosh Tambwe gets himself back inside. This is better by the Sharks. That's a high tackle there from on Grant Williams. Yeah. Better from the Sharks here. There we go. Shifting the ball around. Where has this been the entire game? Good hands there by Van der Mesht. He's still going. But Randall Smith has ripped it. They'll go back for the penalty. And that's what the Sharks are missing the entire game. When you've got somebody like Lakanya in your arsenal, you've got to get the ball to him. Good pass by Apelele Fassi and just some pace. They've got the pace. There's so much pace and attacking nature within the Sharks side. They just haven't used it. And they're actually taking a quick tap here. Fassi's going. Eventually gets brought down on the 22. And there's a penalty to the Sharks. They're going to go quickly again. They're going to have to. They just don't have the time. Okay, advantage for not going 10. Sharks almost ran out of ideas here. Just doing a couple of pop passes. So going backwards. I'm waiting for them to go back for the penalty now. It'll be another quick tap with 5 minutes to go. That's the only thing they can do. Okay, and that is a yellow card for cynical play, and it looks like Renato Portains is off for a bit of cynical play there. Sharks have chipped it over, and they're asking for obstruction, but it was chipped over the so chipped over the top to try and run onto it. Yeah, I mean, they stood their ground. They're asking for obstruction, and that kind of sort of sums it up. I mean, just the Sharks just have random ideas. They just haven't really known what to do. So they've tried various different things to try and get themselves over the line. It just hasn't worked today at all, and they'll have to go and rethink. And, you know, yes, you can talk about the fact that it hasn't been their best squad, but there's definitely been enough in the Sharks squad, in the Sharks team today, to have got more out of the game. Best SA player not to have a World Cup win, I'd say Morne Steyn. Look, there's a couple. There is a couple. And when you think about it, technically Jean de Villiers doesn't have a World Cup, so I think that's pretty big. I don't know if it necessarily counts. Look, there's a couple of players over the years who just sort of find themselves in between players. I mean, that's a forward pass. Oh dear. The Hanley errors are going to make for some pretty horrendous reading in the post-match review, which you will have up in the next sort of 25 minutes. So make sure you keep it locked on the channel. Do a nice summary of what the game is and just talk about how poor it was in general. Look, that's not forward. Neither is that. Not quite sure where the forward pass there. I think that's a bit harsh. Okay, so 4 minutes to go. Cheetahs need a bonus point here. So the final chance here to try and get over the score a try and get everything that they need out of the game. So the next game, so the Cheetahs win and get a bonus point here. They will be playing the Western Province in their next game. Western Province coming on 31 points. So the Cheetahs will be on 26 points if they can find a bonus point here, which means that if they were to beat the Western Province with a bonus point, they would go level with them. Points difference definitely doesn't favor them at all. But the Cheetahs then also have Greek was in the last round. So big opportunity from them. So if they win this year, then they really will be playing Western Province for a potential place in the semi-final. Yeah, it looks like all smiles there from Harvey's Free, and why wouldn't he? I mean, with everything to play for, the team has really delivered today. Can't argue anything against. I mean, as bad as the Sharks have been, the Cheetahs still need to sit there and get the points and get the just reward, and they have so far. It's a big scrum from the Sharks. And it's a penalty to the Cheetahs, though, so they will be able to have a chance to try and kick to the corner. Mark Kumbara, the man who is penalised. I lie. Okay, so a bit of a confidence here, and they're going to go for the corner, try and get that bonus point. Running out of time for it. But that's a great kick from France State. He's kicked brilliantly today. Wouldn't be surprised if he was the man of the match. There's been some big performances. Jean-Ray Rudolph's been particularly impressive. The pack's been pretty good, to be honest. Andisa and Sealer's been everywhere. Reno Smith's been very impressive since come on. She almost had 2 tries. And they wrap around the end there. Jean-Ray Rudolph is well read. No, that's a penalty. Sharks thought they'd turn it around, but it is a penalty for not rolling, and they will have another go at this. So Sharks just playing here to try and not prevent a bonus point, which is important for them because if they can be caught. They can be caught by the Cheetah side if the results don't go the right way. So whilst there might not be anything in terms of a win or anything to try and get it, it was very excessive. France will stay 10 meters away from the line, nobody in the stands throw it back, and he goes and puts that blooming ball into the next province. Yeah, of course we don't have a ball. Nice, Mornet. France. Right, so it goes back to Sekete. Try and save him more this time. There's a player down, but they have got a bit of forward momentum here. The ball is available there for Tion Meyer. France Day goes himself. He's pretty isolated. Doesn't manage to make it too much ground, but they can recycle possession. Tion Meyer goes out wide. Now there's a bit of space. Jean Rudolph out there. He shot straight and he comes inside. That's well played. And that's well done by... It looks like Timolani Bolly is over there. He wins a penalty there. And that should be it for the... Why are you doing? Sharks taking it quickly. I don't know if they tried to cross kick. The camera work didn't get it. But busy throwing the ball around here. Now they got it on the outside. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness me. Knock on. Just blow the whistle, people. This has been a painful watch. Right, so it looks like it's at this stage going to end 30-10. There will be a scrum for the Cheetahs. Right, so we are at 80 minutes. It is full time. The whistle hasn't gone, but the hooter has. Guess what, people? Another blooming reset. It's been horrific in terms of the resets. It really has been a tough watch so far. But thank you to everybody who has tuned in. As I said, please do smash like, subscribe if you haven't already. We will be doing a review shortly after the game. And then in the next couple of days, we will be doing our standard weekend review. We will be doing our team of the week. We'll be doing 5 things learned and all of that over the next couple of days as well. So make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any of that content. And we will be back next weekend with another live watch along, as well as previews, reviews, and all the likes. So, Braunstein gives it away to Lakanya. This will be the final score. Sharks are going to try and do something from within their half, but in all honesty, they can't get anything out of the game. Right, so Sharks trying to run it from within their 22 meters. Kanya's going to try and do something over here. He gets out wide. JJ from the mesh comes inside. Shrugs off 1, shrugs off 2. Out the back ball there from Yapenke. And Sukamuza want to try and create something. He shrugged off a couple of players. Nobody around him really. So the Sharks are making progress. Can they get a consolation try? This is the question. Counteract from the Cheetahs. Now, can they score a try? Blommeke's inside, Bone Fenter. There's no one around. Oh, and he scores. There it is. So the Cheetahs get a bonus point try. After all that, the Sharks cannot complain. They try to keep it alive, see if they can get a consolation try. The Cheetahs turn it over and they go over. So that is a very, very big win by the Cheetahs. That is a bonus point victory. That makes the competition very interesting, to be honest. Yeah, well done by Clayton Blommeke's, and a good run there by Bowen Fenter, who was yellow carded earlier, makes amends. He gets over, and that is a very big result in terms of the tournament. Cheetahs keep themselves alive in the tournament. Braunstein will add the extras, I'm sure. But for a side that was pretty much dead and buried, they've come in and punished a very poor Sharks side. And I think the Sharks will be a bit worried because this is now 2 poor performances in a row. And whilst there are, as we've been saying, a couple of players out, there really can't be much an excuse made for the handling errors and just not being clinical and not being just good enough, really. Right, Braunstein lining it up. Couple of steps, here he goes. And straight through the middle. So 37-10 is the final score in Bloemfontein. Thank you everybody for watching. We're going to be doing a review very quickly after the game, so make sure you keep it locked on here. Please do subscribe, smash a like on the video as well. We will be back live in a week's time for some more Currie Cup action. My name is Stephen for Forever Sports. This has